all, and welcome back to another thrilling episode of Off the Dome. I'm your humble interviewer, Jordan Brown. With me for the very first time is our brilliantly dashing brand director. Say hi, brilliantly dashing brand director.
Hi, brilliantly dashing brand. Hi,
To be fair, I practiced beforehand.
You got me so good with that one. I was like,
Yeah.
I could never make it as good as you could. And I tried and I failed. And I should not have come for your crown or attempted to.
It's good. One time I was interviewing the McElroys and I tried to say amazing abnormals because they were doing like abnormals, and I stumbled over it. So, look, sometimes you swing and you miss.
Even abnormals, case in point, abnormals, no. Yeah. Even that in a vacuum is difficult.
Yes.
So,
once you really ratchet it up. But all right. Yeah. Anyway, this is so exciting. We're here to talk about dice. But before we get into things, can you tell me about the linguistic theories of humor and the applicability that they have to puns?
Oh, no. Oh, I immediately started sweating. So I got my undergrad degree in linguistics, which I'm doing nothing which is true of 99% of linguists. That's not a field that you do things in. And I had to, so my undergrad did something that was basically like a dissertation. It was a special school where you had to do sort of a master's dissertation for what your specialty was. And I wanted to write mine about humor and how humor works from like a linguistic standpoint. And what I'd originally, if I can tangent about this a little bit, because I don't get a chance to talk about it much. What I'd originally wanted to do was I wanted to do my undergrad thesis thing about paraprosdokian humor. And what paraprosdokian humor is that it's humor that relies on garden pathing, which is like a linguistic phenomenon, to make the humor work. So a really famous example of paraprosdokian humor is time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana. Where what it does is it requires your garden pathing in your brain is when you start parsing a sentence and you realize you parsed it wrong. So with that type of humor, time flies like an arrow, you're parsing flies hold on. Sorry, this is so hard to do live and I don't have my semantic tree. But when you hear fruit flies like a banana, you have to change the like and the flies to mean like as a comparative and flies as a noun versus time flies like an arrow, where flies is a verb and like is a comparer. It's been a while since I was in college. So I wasn't able to do it about that because there was not enough research to do it. So instead I went into the theories of how humor works and all of the linguistic theories of humor and whether or not they work for puns. And they didn't, because puns are bad humor. They're bad. We don't do them. That really burnt me out on puns. Now people that are like, I love puns. I'm like, I literally wrote the book on puns and the things you love are not valid.
Hey, super fair. Oh man, that was so much better than I possibly could have imagined it to be. The worst case scenario was there was a different Anica. I don't actually know how to say your last name because I've never heard it said out loud.
It's so weird, right? It's Cihla. It's Cihla.
Okay. But I was like, it's got to be the right one.
There's only one.
Yeah.
I got it. I got points docked off when I presented my dissertation because the abstract for it said that it was something like, this paper subjected 10 puns to rigorous examination to see if they'd pass. And unfortunately, no pun in 10 did. They're like, I just got a note being like, that's not an accurate abstract. And I was like, but because it's a...
Yeah. I appreciate
Academics are joyless.
Yes, they really, really are. I was in academia for a while in journalism, and someone told me that I didn't write like an academic, and I was like, "It's a great compliment, thank you." And they're like, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that," and I was like, "Oh,
interesting."
I was like, "Well, I took it as a compliment because academics are bad writers."
They are, yeah. That's something. Some of the best feedback I ever got in school was like, I was writing like a real stuffy academic, and one of my English teachers was like, what are you doing? Why are you write like you talk? And that was like a paradigm shift for me, because now I'm like, okay, you don't have to write like an academic, because they write in a way that makes them seem like assholes, and who needs that?
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, That's all very exciting. The reason why I asked you here was not to grill you about theses, but rather the incredible cool thing that is coming from Hero Forge, which is you can do things. Am I gonna? Can I block like an influencer? You take
You
like
can do you have to do the thing with your nails as well.
yeah.
Because all the makeup influencers
Yes.
do like this, and then they do like
yeah.
is this good? Is this good content?
It's this is an ASMR channel now. Anyway, you can take a bird man, and you put him inside some dice. I don't know if you can see it at all. Hero Forge is going to make dice so soon.
We are, yeah. I have a demo here, and I don't know if this will work either. We really planned this out so well, where I have this ghost in a witch's hat. Look at that. And then I have my microphone in the way, but also I have a D20 of a ghost in a witch's hat. And what I'm able to demo right now is one of the most interesting challenges in making these dice and getting prepared for our Kickstarter, which is, wow, it's hard to get a perfect photograph of them. So, or good video, as you saw. I'm like, oh, how do I refract it in a way that you can see? But yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, like you mentioned, Kickstarter coming soon. As of when we're recording this, coming soon. Who knows when you're watching this? You may have missed the Kickstarter. That was a mistake on your part. But yeah, like really cool. So is it basically? Is it just? I don't want to say just exclusively. Like that's not like it's just like one little thing. Basically, it looks like to me because I got one with the raccoon in it. Who knows if you can see it?
Oh, my favorite one.
It's so good. There's a pizza. There's a hot dog. There's some other trash. A sub sandwich. A soda can. It's so good. Just like floating around.
And the fun thing is that as of when we're recording this, that raccoon is not live on the site yet. So if this goes out sometime in March before April, then a fun little teaser for everyone.
Oh, am I allowed to say that I have it then? Do I need to?
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah,
great.
We have a few other people on record and other content we're putting together talking about the raccoon. And at this point, I'm like, can't ADR all of them. So we'll just let it go.
Hooray. There are, so like the big ones, like you take, it's basically the head and bust of a mini, inside a big old clear dice. Which is cool as hell. And then some of the other ones, like so this we got our bird bard here, and like the D6 has their like loot in it. There's a D12 that's got their hat. The D8 has the sword, I believe, and D4 has something that I didn't look at beforehand. It's another instrument. Or a bottle. It's a potion. It's something. Anyway.
It's a little potion bottle. Yes. Yeah.
But like all the accoutrement of your mini that you have built on Hero Forge now suddenly is in your dice as well.
Yeah.
I don't think I asked a question here to say things about it.
Let me talk about it. Absolutely. Great. Yes. So I've been learning so much about it, and I want to really shout out our 3D printing company that we've worked with. We're working with the same company who prints our minis as our dice, and they are called Marketiger. They are a Netherlands-based company, and they are wonderful. They've been doing such a good job of, we come to them and we go, what if we did, these 2x tall statuettes? What if we did Ultra HD minis? And they're like, of course, let's work together and make that happen. So the whole conversation around 3D printed dice actually started about 4 years ago, because I think it was actually Marketiger that was like, hey, I think we can start doing transparent resin now. Because what we do is that, if people don't know, the way Hero Forge minis are printed and the way our dice are printed is, we're not doing injection molding, not anything like that. They are 3D printed in layers, which makes the fact that they're in color so much more impressive. But that same sort of layering is how our dice are printed as well. And I can get into that in a second. So 4 years ago, we're like, hey, let's see if this can happen. And it's sort of been on the back burner, thinking about, is this something that we can do? Is it not? And then it was only, within pretty recently that we're like, oh, I think we want to make this happen, in part because they're beautiful. As you've seen, they look really amazing. The technology behind them is really cool. And also, we were talking about some of the uses for them before we went live, but they make such good gifts for people. They are so good for wargaming, for example. I have with me, because I love playing 40K, I have like 10 D6s with dynamite in them that I always use for when I play my orc army, because I'm like, what orcs love dynamite. So you get to use them for wargaming, for board games, or even for like our magic players out there, we have spin downs, so that instead of like a standard D20, we have all the numbers that are sequential. So if you have a, a Bloomborough rabbit typal deck, you can have like a little dice with a bunch of rabbits in it. So it's really cool. Yeah, there's so many different things you can do with it.
That's incredible. That's so exciting. Yeah, I just like, as someone who I spend a lot. I should also say, like, I held this up earlier. This is the big boy. There is also a actual mini sized version that
Yes.
you have not sudden. This is this is not the standard mini size.
I have a wonderful example here made by our in-house mini designer, Simon, of a treasure crab, which is wild, and then a regular mini-sized one.
So good.
So many cool things you can do.
Yes. Yeah, I love, so I have a problem. Your site is part of it. That is, like, obviously, like, you make a new character, you need a new mini for him. But I also, like, if I'm building a new character, that character also needs dice that reflect the character. And normally it's like, I'm making a Warforged. I need some metallic or some stone. Like, I need something that, like, feels good. And now being able to be like, well, I've got those as well, because obviously you need a couple of sets of dice for every character.
Oh, yeah.
But also now I could literally just be like, oh, and also my character exists in my dice now, and
Yes.
his Warhammer is just like in my D12, because he's a barbarian and he's gonna roll that D12 every once in a while, as the only one that gets to.
Speaking of that, because you did such a good job talking through our wonderful bird bard and being like, oh, here's all their various items, and one of my favorite one that's kind of, I've seen that we had an example of, and I could send you a picture of it if you wanted to, like, put it on screen right here.
Yeah.
Right here. Put right here. Whatever. Is we have a frog barbarian, which is what made me think of it. And the frog barbarian has such a fun, like, he's holding this giant axe. He has a big top hat with a sword coming out of it. And then in his bag is a tiny little frog on a lily pad. Did I send you this set? I can't remember.
You did not. But
okay. No.
Now I want that instead of birds.
It's so cool, because in the in the D10, for example, we have the frog's face, but he looks all angry, and we added like mad eyebrows because it represents him going into a rage. Or like the excuse me, the D6 has just like a flexing bicep on it, where it's like, oh, okay, so your frog barbarian got his weapons taken away from him. Okay, well, he still does D6 unarmed damage. So like and then of course, like the D4 has the little frog, where it's like, all right, go do D4 damage with your little frog. So what's cool is that you can take all of these, not just like moments from your story where it's like, oh my God, we had this like really funny, we don't talk about that incident, and now we have a dice from this moment at the table where we all laughed about it. But you can also be like, okay, well, if I know I do D6 unarmed, I have a D6 that is literally an arm, which I think is a really cool use for it.
Oh man, that's so much fun. Yeah, so like so you were literally like, obviously, like, the ones I have all have like bust of character, but you could literally just be like, it's head, and also we've made him angry, not just a like so you can, obviously, like, the question, I mean, the idea, which I think obviously we've talked about, the of like, you can match your dice to your character, the mini that you've built, but you can also then, it sounds like, take the core of the mini and like adjust accordingly into dice of like, this is my mad frog dice, and this is my happy frog dice. Like,
yeah, so you can definitely put the characters like bust inside of the dice. I know you mentioned, because some of your D20s have that. You can even in like one of the XL D20s, you can put the entire character inside the dice. Technically, you could put the entire character inside any size dice, but we really don't recommend that. You won't be able to see it very well. But it's like, so for this frog, what we did is using our kit bashing feature, which is a pro subscription feature. We took the frog's face, and then we have something called primitive shapes in there. So it's just like squares and rectangles, etc. And we took 2 black rectangles and like put it on his face. Again, because you're working on such a small scale, you can get away with being like, this is like a little bit anime protagonist mad face, but it definitely works.
Oh yeah, that's so fun. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, obviously, like, kit bashing's so cool. I am also curious, like, so, well, I should say, like, I called you the brand director, but you are the brand director of Hero Forge, which is very, very cool.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ask you how you ended up there, because I've heard your story of you decided you didn't want a job somewhere, and then you were just like, could I have a job somewhere else? And someone was like, you want a job somewhere else? And then you got a job somewhere else. So I'm not gonna ask you. To give career advice. But there was definitely a question, and I distracted myself with my own nonsense.
No, you're fine talking about brand directing, Hero
Yes.
Forge.
Yeah, one of the things that I love, like, speaking of like, I mean, it's not technically kit bashing, but just like bashing in general. Is like there was a while back. I think it was like someone wanted. It was when like the hippos were coming out, and someone was like, well, I don't have a hippo mini, but if you take an elephant and you tuck his trunk, like there's like that kind of like level of like things. Have you seen stuff like that where you're like I cannot believe someone built something that we did not intend, and they like it's like yes,
Oh
you were
yeah.
go.
I would probably say so. I will shout out this person until I'm blue in the face. But if you want to see someone where routinely we were like, that's not a Hero Forge mini, he'd post it in the subreddit and we'd be like, hey man, lost r/lost redditor, that is not a Hero Forge mini. And it was the person whose minis have been shared and the internal Slack the most, with us being like, what the hell is Solar Simon DM, who I mentioned actually created the treasure crab that I showed earlier, who is actually now a freelance mini designer for us. And if you want to talk about career advice, really, I want to just shout out Solar Simon, because he was so good at Hero Forge and also so nice and so easy to work with that we were like, can we pay you to do this? Like, really, it just be good at something, be involved in the community, and be nice. That is a lot. That opens a lot of doors. So Simon does a ton of stuff where it's hard for me to even come up with one particular thing, because it is mind blowing what he's able to do. I strongly recommend, if you just want to see stuff where you're like, that's not possible. It's really cool.
One of the fun things about like this interview, I guess, is so in my Discord, someone posted that the Kickstarter was launching, and they were really excited about it. And within 20 minutes, I had booked an interview with you when I saw someone like post about it, because I was sitting in an airport. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever. It was very early for me, and I was like getting ready to fly to New York. I'm sure. I don't remember why, but I was like, oh yeah.
Was that right before the Gauntlet in the Garden?
It must have been, right? Because this would have been in January. Yeah. And yeah, so like it was just very fun, because someone was like, they were like, oh man, look at this cool thing. And I was like, oh, I know who I could talk to. And like immediately sent you a DM. You said you were down. And I was like, I posted it. I was like, yeah, I got this. And someone was like, how did you do that already? And they're like, did you know this person beforehand? And I was like, yes, we've done actually live twice together.
Yes, we played Magic together. She won, but it wasn't a clean victory.
Yeah.
It was sort of a sad Pyrrhic victory, and she's learned from it.
Yes. Yeah, it was super fun playing Magic. So it was super fun playing Magic with you. It was the first time I've played Magic in at least 20 years. And
have you played it since then?
I have not. I just don't. I have no one to play it with, and no Magic the Gathering cards. So really, like, limits how much you can do. If he said he was going to send me cards, but you know what if he's like. Speaking of, when you
if he will forget to attend his own funeral,
yes,
if he is immortal simply because he will forget to die.
yeah. But speaking of, how the second PAX West, the second time we did Actually Live, I would love to hear how you got roped into Actually Live, because I believe it. Well, you go ahead to tell the story.
I think probably just because Iffy and I have known each other for years. We knew each other back when I was still working at Twitch, and because I was a stand-up comic, Iffy is a stand-up comic, we just sort of moved past each other in our orbits quite a lot, and then we just became friends, and I just happened to be available, and he's like, do you want to do Actually? And I for a long time I had a job writing and editing trivia for the very short-lived Words with Friends live trivia app. So do you remember when HQ was like the thing and
Yes,
everyone
yeah,
was saying HQ, and Zynga had been like, we're going to get on that. And as a linguist who did stand-up comedy, I was like, this is my jam. And I hosted it, and I hated it. I hated it so much. So I was like, I would love to write the questions instead. So I had experience with pedantry and with trivia. So that's how I ended up on it, which was super
yeah.
fun.
It was super fun both times. As I say, my understanding is basically if he runs into you at the conference and said, and this is not just you, anyone who was on that stage other than me, runs into you at the conference and is like, hey, you want to do Actually Live tomorrow? And someone's like, okay. And that's how you show up, which
Yes.
is incredible.
That is exactly how it went. I think I just happened to be like walking past his vision when he was thinking about it, and he's like, boom, gotten, which was great. I loved doing it with Kate and Jenna at PAX West, right?
That's
Was
PAX
that
Fest,
West?
yeah.
Was an absolute treat. I am very excited to eventually be on the stage again with those three, and very lightly antagonizing Iffy by having the audience not even shout out the answers, but I guess charades out the answers, which
Yeah.
was I think they need to have a live audience in Actually when they record, and just have audience members with whiteboards just holding up the answers.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was a charades for some anime demon something or other where the magic
Yes.
powers came from, I believe, eating a finger.
Yes.
And
Because we people in the audience kept being
yes,
like,
yeah,
and
it
we were
was.
all like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
super fun. But yeah, it's. Oh man, how about this for a transition? Speaking of eating things, tell me about Sin Eater. Bam.
Oh gosh, are we talking about that? Yes, I would absolutely love to. So happy to pivot into more personal project stuff.
We'll get
Sin
back to
Eater.
dice. Well,
No, that's
look,
fine. That's fine.
I'm not
Um,
I'm not a linear interviewer.
that's fine. I actually have a beta reader copy right here. This is soft, and eventually we will aim for hardcover for the deluxe version. But anyway, this is not important. Sin Eater is a game that is being published with Hunters Entertainment, who are the publishers behind Alice is Missing, behind all of the Kids on Bikes, Kids on Brooms, Kids in Capes series, a ton of different cool stuff. And they so graciously are working with me to publish the first game I have ever written. So I've since put out little, like Psych, the TTRPG and stuff on itch, but this is the first game that I ever started writing. I wrote the whole thing in a manic episode about a year ago in 36 hours. Not the whole thing, but the majority of it. And then I reached out to the incomparable Alex Teplitz, and I was like, I'm so sorry that this feels really embarrassing, but I went and made a game. I don't know. Can you edit it? I'm sorry. I'm trying to delete this message. I don't know why I asked you to do this. And he was so wonderful, and he's like, I'd love to. And he helped shape it into this incredible solo journaling RPG. And then we brought in Eric Sawicki, who is the best layout artist ever in the world. I will fight anyone that claims that there is any better person at layout. than Eric. He made this game look incredible. It's kind of a mix between the art style is very inspired by the game Pentiment, and it's very like illuminated manuscript meets occult cookbook. I tell people that one of the most interesting things about Sin Eater is that it features a lot more full frontal male nudity than you'd expect it to, and you can buy the book and find out why. Not in like a weird way. That sounded like such a pervert thing to say. It's
Right,
just there's a lot of it in the art, but not in a
check
sex
the
way.
not for kids button on YouTube.
No, I'm sorry. But basically, so we brought Eric on, and then we also have some art direction, including the cover and some of the interior spreads from Johan Noor. And Johan, I just said that Eric was the best layout person in the world, and Johan, I am so sorry. Y'all are tied. Johan did all of the art and layout for Morkborg, so I was really honored. When I emailed him, again, this being my first game, I emailed him and did that thing where I was like, hey, do you want to create like the cover and some spreads for this game? And I was like, and I'll never hear from him. And it's like, I shot for the stars, I missed, and I have no pressure. And then like a week later, he's like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And I'm like, no, you were supposed to say no. Like when you have these people that you look up to, or this person you look up to, and you're like, hey, do you want to do this? I did my duty by asking, and they'll say no, and I'll have no pressure. And then when they say yes, you're like, that's not how this was supposed to go. So he's done a bunch of really cool stuff on it. He's doing the ritual map for it as well. He's doing the logo for it. And I guess I should talk about what it's actually about, which, like I said, it is a solo journaling RPG about being a Sin Eater. And a Sin Eater is a real historical practice. I told someone about this game once, and they're like, why did you name a game after a Final Fantasy class? No, that's not what it is. Read a book. And what a Sin Eater is it was a practice in kind of around the Welsh marches, but in a few different places in the UK. And it was right towards the tail end of the Holy Roman Empire. And what would happen is that if someone died before a priest could get there and absolve them of their sins, what the family would do is they'd hire a Sin Eater. And a Sin Eater was someone that was kind of like the dregs of society, because what they'd do is they'd come to the person's house and they'd be given usually just bread and ale, and then they would either place the food on the corpse or just kind of like, sort of reverse smudge, just kind of move it around over it or something like that. It varied from place to place. And then they would eat the food and drink the ale, thereby transferring that person's sins onto themselves. So what Sin Eater is about is it is about you kind of do this journaling, figuring out who you are, figuring out who the dead person is, what their sins are. And then you're also doing some journaling to figure out what your ritual is and how that resolves. There's also a very cool coin flip mechanic in there that features the theory of humors. So there's that old theory of humors where it's like every feeling, every malady, and every temperament boils down to your four humors, which is black bile, yellow bile, phlegm, and blood. And if you have too much of one, it makes you like it actually makes sense, because like if you have a sanguine personality, it means you're like kind of chill, unbothered by stuff. It's because you have too much blood, sanguine blood, which is cool. If you're melancholic, it's because you have too much yellow bile, black bile. I should know this. Or if you're phlegmatic, it's because you have too much phlegm. Point being, so there's a coin flip mechanic to make sure that you're balancing humors well. There's a whole bunch in there, and it's really cool. And we are officially announcing our pre-launch on March 11th. So if it comes out before then, that's a quick turnaround on this. But we're kickstarting in May. So if this comes out before May, please go click the notify on launch button, because it's really cool.
Definitely be out before May.
Great.
I can promise you that.
Listen, hedging my bets, just being safe.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, and there's a Substack that folks can go if they want to follow along on this journey. But oh man, I want to. All right, you said Kickstarter. We'll get back to the Kickstarter because we should talk about the Kickstarter for the dice as well. But you also mentioned, you said read a book. And I did write down a question that I do want to ask you. What is your...
I read? No, I can't.
No,
next question.
No. What is your favorite video game book? As someone who buys video game lore books.
Oh boy. So it's interesting that you specify. I have several answers to this. I'm frustrated that you specified video game because I've gotten so into reading the Black Library, which is the fiction books associated with the 40K universe. They are
Mm,
incredible. I will shout out the Eisenhorn series until I die because it's such a good like detective noir sort of series. But in terms of video game book, what if I said Ready Player One right now and everything that you respected about me was gone? Both in terms of my ability to parse your question and also just my taste in anything. Like, no. I really love I think the Sekiro art book I really enjoy because I love all FromSoft games and it's mostly going to be art books. But then I just got the Dark Souls 2 like playthrough walkthrough guide because I haven't looked at like a video game guide in a long time, and Dark Souls 2 is probably my favorite game ever made. So I really like that one. What is your answer to this question?
oh no! I read the Dune novelization, or not Dune, the Doom
I was gonna
novelizations
say
as a child.
Dune. No, no,
Yeah,
no.
no, the Doom novelizations as a child, and I love them a lot.
Interesting. Really? Have
I
you revisited them as an
oh
adult?
no,
Did they
there's
hold
no way they're good.
up? Really? Okay. Do you have a modern example? I can't even think about that many video game books.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I don't. I barely read. It's look, and having
but
gone
you'll read
through,
Sin Eater, right?
I'm absolutely going to read Sin Eater. Well, here's what I can promise. I'll back it on Kickstarter. I won't promise I'll read it.
That's all I care about. Give me your money. Don't even read the thing that I've poured my heart into. Who
Look,
needs
I've
that
got
vulnerability?
so many books in that closet. I have like the Die RPG, another Kickstarter that I
Oh my
backed
god,
that's
we
just
get it. You read.
sitting in
Okay.
my closet, never cracked it.
Chat, get in the comments and make fun of this Poindexter over here being like, yeah, I have a
I have
closet
books.
full of books, which is the
Yes.
normal place where you store books if you respect them. I have a whole garbage bag full of books
Yeah.
just out in the back of my truck.
I have a bookshelf over here as well. So that's the anyway. None of this matters. No, I have no. I don't know anything about. I can't think of any video game books that I've read in also since I was a child. But I really got it. I've got really into because I listen to NADPOD and
Mm.
their precursor 8-Bit Book Club, where they read video game books, was
Oh yeah.
such a delight. They never read a good one, so it's not like that's a place to go and be like, "Oh,
I
these were
don't
good
know if
ones."
there are good ones.
Probably
I've heard
not.
people say that the like Blizzard makes good books based on like WoW, I think, but I have
Mhm.
not read any of them.
Yeah, um, uh, yeah.
Here's okay, follow-up
Yes.
question. Do
Okay.
you have a favorite game made from a book?
A game made from a book. I mean, my brain can't think of anything.
I
I guess
have only
Die,
one.
right? Die is my favorite game made from a book.
Okay. Okay.
That counts, right?
I think the only example I had at the start of that sentence when I was like, oh, you got to put your money where your mouth is and actually think of one is the Animorphs Game Boy game, which is the most
incredible.
frustrating gaming experience. It is universally considered one of the worst nonsensical, frustrating games, which, as a huge Animorphs lover, was deeply depressing when I got it as a child. And I was like,
Yeah.
am I just dumb? It did so much to ruin my self-confidence. And then as an adult, everyone's like, no, it was really bad. I'm like, oh, thank God. I could have been a doctor
Yeah.
if someone had told me that I wasn't dumb. It was just a bad game.
I guess if we're expanding past role playing games, because that's where my brain went to. If any like if there was a really good Lord of the Rings one, and I don't know which one it was. I think it was a Two Towers game that was very fun. I don't know what I think
Shadows
it
of
was,
Mordor?
that was a fun one as well. But that isn't what I was thinking about. It probably was just a very silly like you build a castle or like you build a kingdom and you fight other people. It probably had no story to it, but I remember it being good and I don't remember the name of it.
Did you ever play any of those like horrible shovelware games? And I'm back on video games, but like the shovelware ones, like the shockingly difficult Lion King one. Did you play any of those?
Yeah. I mean, like as a kid, yes, and hated them so much.
They did so much. I think by our entire generation, we're just like, this is the reason we've failed as a generation, is we played these games that were so hard as kids that we're just like, I'm just not gonna try.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
irony poisoned is like a protection away from being like, Simba, this is platforming. You're a lion. This should not be
yeah,
hard. You're a
yeah.
cat. Stop falling.
Why do I have to change the direction of the goddamn monkey? Yeah, it's yeah. There are a whole bunch of those. A few years ago, I got a system. I think it's called the Retron, and it has like slots for like Nintendo, Sega, Super
Cool.
Nintendo, and something, and it just like you can just like plop each of them, like any game cartridge into them. So periodically, like I will pick up like old game cartridges just to be like, this seems like it's fun. They're always so bad.
Old games were so hard. Like
Yeah,
I blame everything about our generation is that we just got stuck. No child should experience tank controls and just
yeah,
have people assume that they're going to come out of that not scarred.
yeah,
Like, what do you mean I was pointing left and now I'm pointing right? Why?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, monstrous. All right. Kickstarting dice. We talked about the dice themselves, but the Kickstarter is coming. Can you give us a preview of what people can expect when they're backing said Kickstarter?
Yeah, so with the Kickstarter tiers, which I do not have in front of me right now, unfortunately, and you probably do not want me simply reading them off verbatim, but people will be able to back at tiers that allow them. You know, you get a single D20 if you want to keep it nice and simple. You can get one of our, here's just for like a size reference, we have an XL D20, which is actually, you might be able to see that okay. That is one of my cats playing with a red ball of yarn, which is so cute. Here's a regular size one, just for size reference there. You can do, if you back at a certain tier, and I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, like I said, you can get a full set of dice. You can get a set of dice with one of our statuettes. You can actually, there are some tiers where you can back and get a product that we don't have on the site yet, which is our Ultra HD color printed minis. And these are printed the same way that our regular ones are, the same way our statuettes are, but they're printed at like twice the dot density. So they are so vibrant and beautiful. So you can get that, which we don't even have an ETA for when we're going to have those live for everyone. But then at some of the higher tiers, it gets buck wild. So you can get to tiers where you design a decal for the site. So a decal, again, it's like a projected design or symbol. There are tiers where you can design a handheld item, any handheld item. Caveat, as long as it's not third-party IP or sexual, don't do that. You can create full, there are some of our really, really high tiers, and they're so limited because they're quite expensive. You can create an entire armor set, which is wild. You can actually, one of the sort of more middle tiers is you can add your own pet to Hero Forge, which is really cool. So that's kind of the general idea of the tiers, and then some of the add-ons. You can just add extra dice on, add an Ultra HD mini on, kind of what you'd expect. It's cool because we have so many different products that you're like, oh, I want one of these and one of these, one of these. And then in terms of some of the stretch goals that we're looking at releasing, I can talk about the ones that I think will be visible when we go live. I don't want to get too
Yeah.
in depth, but you can change it so that right now the font on your dice face, you know, you can change the color of the numbers and you can kind of move them around, scale them a little bit. But we are adding other, if we unlock them, we can add different font options. We can add it so that you can have a different decal on dice faces, which, can I just say, when we were creating the little, you know, because we have a render showing like, here's a dice and here is an animation of like, oh, here's all the different symbols that you can add. I was so confident that I'd convinced the Hero Forge team to use the cool S. Do you remember the cool S that
Of
we all
course.
drew? I was like, we have to use that. And everyone's like, haha, yeah, sounds good. And I took that at face value. And I was like bragging. I'm like putting it on my resume, like convinced my colleagues to use the cool S. And then when I saw the final render, no cool S to be seen. So unlock that level so we at Hero Forge and you viewers at home can get the cool S. So all this really rad stuff. And then the one that I will tease that's not visible is may or may not, if if we really get big support, that weapons forge, which people have talked about wanting so much, that was one of our unlocked stretch goals with the color Kickstarter. Who can say? May or may not. May or may not. Who can say? Who can say? I don't know. I
Yeah,
can't say.
right.
So that is the Kickstarter in a nutshell.
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, you held up the one that has your cat playing with red yarn in it. Which we talked a bunch about, like that you can like throw just a mini into your dice and the various pieces. But if people wanted to get gifts for someone, that they're like, hey, I know you like games, and also I know that you have a cat. Like you can build their cat and put their cat in a dice, which doesn't seem like the right way to phrase that. A rendering of their cat in a set of dice.
We actually, so for the Kickstarter video, what we really wanted to do is this is from that, because we wanted to have a cat playing with the dice, which us, in our idiocy and hubris, we're like, it'll be super simple to just capture some footage of a cat playing with the dice. No, wrong. Liar. So there's a part of the video where my cat is sort of vaguely next to a dice, and good enough. We do, on our YouTube channel, we do have bloopers from that shoot, which are very funny, because you just see me like pointing a laser at a dice and my cat just like looking at it, and then just like kind of doing like that type of lay down that cats do where they just sort of give up, and I'm like, you little bastard. So yes, cats and dice, put them in there. It's what they deserve.
But other things as well. Not just cats, I assume. You can get all kinds of things in dice.
Yeah, you can put cheese in there. I have a hamburger turtle, which is just a mishmash of a burger and a turtle. Point being, we could be here literally for 6 hours. I could just do like Bubba Gump style and list out every single iteration of thing you can put in the dice. But you can put anything, and you don't only need kit bashing. I know right now, if you want an item to float on Hero Forge, you have to use kit bashing, and that is not required. I want to make it clear. Dice are for everyone, and there'll be a bunch of toggles in the menu where you're like, oh, I have a character holding swords, and you put that character in, and you can toggle, like, I don't know exactly what it'll say at this point because it's not built there yet, but hide body, and then it'll just be the sword. So there's tons of stuff that you can do, and you don't need to pay for it to get access to it.
That's so cool. Oh man, it's all so much fun. I did want to ask you about the Psych TTRPG, just because.
Yeah.
What a delightfully fun show. Mostly, my wife loves the show. I also like the show. I should say. I should. We rewatched it recently, and as I was rewatching, I was like, this cop stuff hits differently than the first time I watched the show.
I just rewatched it. I have a tattoo of a pineapple because, I mean, look at me. I have a bunch of tattoos of varying degrees of significance, but because Psych was the show that made me go, oh, I want to do comedy. I want to write dialogue like this. But I did rewatch it recently as well, and I was like, this is propaganda. Like, this is... But, yeah.
Also, in some of the later seasons, Lassie just goes like full lunatic, like screaming about global warming, and I'm like, he wasn't like this at the beginning.
Hey, okay, let's play a game. Who from Psych would you not want to know their whereabouts on January 6th?
Oh yeah, I guess
don't want to know.
Yeah, Lassiter, obviously.
Yes.
Oh god, what was the tall like rookie that was very lovable? Buzz, yeah. That feels like another one. I mean,
Buzz feels like he'd show up there by mistake. Yeah. Same with Woody, who was the more
corner.
Yes, there we go. Both Buzz and Woody would have shown up there totally misreading the situation.
Yes.
Or maybe Woody shows up there because he just likes anarchy. Like, he really seems like the type that's like, yeah, let's go, sort of a party animal.
He's storming the Capitol, and then they're like, oh, I didn't know you were like a big Trump supporter. And he's like, what now? I was just here, like, I saw people storming a building and I joined in.
I get the sense that I think Henry would have pulled the oh my god, who I'm like, oh, the Mark, what's his name? The guy who's like 9/11 would have gone down differently if I was
Oh yeah,
there.
yeah. Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
I think um Henry would not have been there, but he would have been like, yeah, it would have gone down differently if I wasn't there, or if I was there. Anyway, point being, I made a game about it.
Yeah.
Not about them being at January 6th, but
Right.
I will say, actually, Lasers and Feelings, which is the system that I use to hack together the Psych TTRPG. If you are someone who wants to get into game design, Lasers and Feelings hacks are such a good way to do it because it's a very simple system. It's a D6 system where if you, I've changed it because I've done so many hacks, but it's like if you roll high, it's lasers. If you roll low, it's feelings. And it's simple to learn. So it's nice to people that are new to TTRPGs, but it's also so simple to build because you can flavor it. I think instead of lasers and feelings, Psych the TTRPG, it was like I know and you know as like the two stats.
Mhm.
So which basically map to like I know is like, hey, your own innate knowledge, and you know is more like intuition and vibe checks. So yeah, I think it's a really cool place to start if you do want to get into game design. It's just doing lasers and feelings hacks.
That's super fun. Yeah, weirdly, this is the second time I've talked to someone about lasers and feelings this week.
Really?
Because I talked to Laser Weber, who was one of the singers of the Double Clicks, who had the song "Lasers and Feelings" that the game is loosely based off of.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that. That's so cool.
Yeah, because I saw like he has this song like the band has this song, but Lasers and Feelings, and I was like, that can't be a coincidence. Like, there's just no way someone was like a song exists and a game exists of that specific, and it's about like a robot that has feelings.
Has he ever
Uh,
played the game?
I don't. I'm sure he has. We didn't get into it. I was asking if the McElroys had given him credit, but since they've played it a bunch. This has nothing to do with anything. Look, it's the end of the day. My brain is very spacey.
It is. I fully feel that. Yeah.
Here's a question that probably should have been at the beginning. What is a brand director?
No, that's so fair. That is, I will say, that's sort of a hard question to answer because a brand director it's one of those titles where you could ask 1,000 different people and they'd be like, who are you? Get out of my home. But a brand director basically is like, I kind of help out with the marketing team and I think about stuff that will impact sort of our brand image. So that's anything from like, hey, who do we want to do IP collaborations with in a way that kind of aligns with our brand, and like, hey, we, when we think about Hero Forge, we like to think about, hey, we're really supportive of people and we are big on championing creativity and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, how do we post on socials to help show people that? What language do we use? What IP partners do we work with? All of these kind of things. And I'm working on some really cool stuff that I don't know if I can talk about right now, but it's very near and dear to my heart. It's something really cool that Hero Forge is going to be doing soon that I actually pitched before I started at Hero Forge, and we didn't have the technical ability to do it until relatively recently. So almost 3 years later, we finally get to do it, and I'm very excited for it to go live. But I will say, this is not a brand director thing, but my favorite part of my job is I write all of the release copy and parts names and descriptions. So anytime we have a Treasure Tuesday release, the parts names, the names and the little descriptions and the copy for the release, I got to write all of that. And if there's any spelling errors, I didn't write that one, but the rest of the ones I did.
Oh, that's so much fun.
Truly the highlight of my job. It is so much fun.
Yeah, I sometimes in my job I do a bit that is just for me, where I'm writing the alt text for images on like a story that I'm publishing. And it's only on stories that aren't serious, because like anyway, where the alt text will either be a series of jokes that like each one like leads into the next image of like, or it will be way too long of just like it is a joke that like it gets so deep in the weeds describing the
Sort of a
picture.
shaggy dog joke where you're just
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I know no one has ever seen them. No one has ever seen them, and it is exclusively for me, and it brings me so much joy.
You have
Um,
to have that little thing where you're like, this is fun for me. Like, this is a little, sometimes in parts names, I'm like, this is like a little joke, or I made reference to like a movie from like 40. I made reference to like Singing in the Rain once, and I'm like, hello, boomers. Like, this is not for the children. Check not made for children on YouTube, but it's for me. You know, I'm having a little fun. And at the end of the day, as long as I'm not putting anything in there that's like, what? It's fine.
yeah, amazing. All right, if folks want to find the Kickstarter for Hero Forge, that's probably pretty easy. It's on Kickstarter. It's
Google Hero
okay.
Forge custom dice.
Yeah,
And I don't have the URL immediately available, but
I
Hero
mean,
Forge custom
I'll
dice
put
Kickstarter will get
it'll
you there.
be in the things below.
Put it here.
I've got it.
Put it here. Now move it up here.
Yeah.
Now put a fire effect and it
I'm not going
rolls
to do
it in.
that. Launches tomorrow as of recording this.
And a dancing alien down here. And
yeah.
maybe that meme of a frog on a bicycle. Point being, yes. Launches
Yeah.
March 6th.
Very exciting. Can't wait for that. If folks want to find out more about Sin Eater, they can go to your Substack, which the easiest place, I think, to find that is if they follow you on Instagram, which they obviously should be doing. And how can they do that? Where are you on the Instagram?
Find me on Instagram at Anica, ANICA _Cihla, CIHLA. And also follow me on Blue Sky at Anica Cihla without the
Wait, do I follow you
little
on Blue Sky? I never know.
line
Like,
underneath.
we've gotten to a point where, like, I am in. I don't follow you on Blue Sky. How embarrassing for me. We've gotten to a point where, like
Delete this interview.
Yeah, I have started. You know, like we get to like an interview, and I'm like, hey, where can people follow you, and whatever, and they're like, and I'm on Blue Sky, and I'm like, shit, I don't think I follow this person on Blue Sky. And it's a person like I really like. It's just like because it's still like
out where
so
we're going.
new. I
Yeah.
just like I don't spend that much time on it still. So anyway,
I also don't spend a lot of time on it because it is. I saw someone describe it as like it is the place where people tell jokes and people who are joke non-understanders are all together. And I go on there and I'm like, what are you talking about? So it is. But yes,
Yeah.
that is where I primarily am.
Amazing, Anica. Thank you so much. This is such a delight. Can't wait for. I mean, I don't have to get any. I don't have to do.
You
anything.
have so
I'll still
many.
back, but I'll
If
still
you're gonna
do
buy
it.
dice, spend that money on Sin Eater. No, don't. Go support the Hero Forge dice Kickstarter, and then 2 months later, support Sin Eater.
Start saving your money after you back the Hero Forge Custom Dice
Exactly.
Kickstarter for
Perfect
Sin Eater.
plan.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This is an absolute delight. I don't know how to end an
Thank
interview.
you.
I'm just going to hit stop recording.